We return now to the story of Edward Snowden, the 29-year-old former CIA employee and intelligence contractor who's admitted leaking government secrets. Is he a criminal who put Americans at risk, or is he a hero who told Americans what they need to know about how closely their government is watching them? We have 2 points of view on that from Jay Harmon, a former 9-term member of Congress who was the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. She's now president of the Woodrow Wilson International Center, and author and journalist James Bamford, who has written extensively about the NSA and other intelligence agencies. Welcome to you both. So, James Bamford, is Edward Snowden a leaker or a whistleblower?
Well, he's definitely a whistleblower. He's not profiting from this in any way. He's going to be harmed very severely because of this. He's doing this because he thinks it's right, because he thinks that the public should know that the government was picking up and storing billions of their telephone records. You know, they had a debate about this in England last few weeks, but it was public. It was about a bill going through Congress to do a similar thing. Over here, we don't do that. We just secretly do all these things. The public has a right to know what's being done with their telephone records.
Jane Harmon?
He's a leaker, and what he did was inappropriate. I do think we should have a public debate. We actually had a public debate around the 2008 amendments to FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. This law has been on the books since 1978. It was passed in response to the abuses in the Nixon administration and pursuant to the Church Commission, which investigated a lot of intelligence abuses in the mid-70s. It was passed by overwhelming bipartisan margins, and it set up the Senate Intelligence and House Intelligence Committees, in addition to the FISA court, to review individual actions against U.S. persons. And it continued that way through 2011, when it was clear the authorities were outdated, and then we amended it after a public debate in the United States Congress, and it works well.
Senator Udall, we just heard, talked about the scale of this program. Is it possible to share this kind of information as Edward Snowden did and not share it at such scale? Is that the problem, really?
Have him share the information about what he picked up?
So much of it.
Well, we've yet to see what else he has out there. Right now, he released basically 2 big programs, the one about the telephones and the one about PRISM, which is intercepting the internet traffic. I don't think that was a big release. I mean, people should know this is going on with their communications. What's the big secret? The terrorists obviously they've assumed all along that we're doing this, so why keep it a secret from the American public?
Both the Washington Post and the Guardian have reported that he made available to them PowerPoint slides, of which they only published 4 of them because they thought there were things he was giving them that were too secret.
Well, I haven't seen those. I can't make any judgment about those. What I'm making a judgment on is what we've seen. What we've seen is the government access without any knowledge of any public about access to billions of telephone records every day. Every day somebody picks up a telephone, makes a phone call. A record of that phone call is being kept by NSA. People should know that. Same thing with the internet.
Jane Harmon, let me read to you something that James Bamford has written about the NSA. He wrote that there is no doubt that it has transformed itself into the largest, most covert, and potentially most intrusive intelligence agency ever created.
Well, it's large. I agree with that. But the programs we're talking about were developed in Congress pursuant to debate. They are subject to oversight by Congress. There is a federal court. That's what the FISA court is. It's a rotating court that includes 11 federal judges, at least 3 of whom have to live near Washington, so they can personally review any individualized request to read content or listen to in fact, the phone records are records, but to listen to somebody, it's prospective. It's not retroactive. No one's listening to our phone calls right now, unless there's an individualized record if we're an American. But at any rate, Congress passed these laws, and they are, and my experience, having worked there and having been involved in the 2008 amendments to FISA, having been very distressed that the early Bush administration wasn't following FISA right after 9/11. But at any rate, these laws work well, and the oversight is robust by the senators and House members who do it, mostly on the Intelligence Committee.
There are laws, there are courts. What's wrong with that? If it's legal, or is that what's wrong with it?
Well, the Congress, please. I mean, where were they when the Bush administration was doing their warrantless eavesdropping?
I'll answer that.
Well, let me finish. You know, the Congress the Senate Intelligence Committee, when it started out under Frank Church, it started out as an organization to protect the public from the intelligence agencies. Now it's simply become a cheering gallery for the intelligence agencies. They want to give it more money. They want to give it more power. And you can see what happens during the Bush administration.
I served there for 8 years, and I don't think I was a cheering gallery for the Bush practices. First of all, I objected once I understood it, that the Bush terrorist surveillance program, TSP, was being conducted outside of FISA. That was not information I had. I was in the so-called Gang of Eight, read into this very, very secret program. I was told every time it strictly complied with law. What I wasn't told is these were Bush laws made in the Justice Department. And when that was clear, I and many others in Congress spent a lot of time making sure that this program, which was known to the public, I mean, first of all, it was leaked to the New York Times. Everybody was aware about the phone records collection program and what it was for, was strictly covered by FISA, and that was the product of a public debate.
Let me ask you both a question. There have been at least 2 polls out today showing most Americans think it's fine, that they don't really have a problem with this. So let me ask you this question, James Bamford. What has the gathering of this information, this effort that the NSA has meant to gather personal information, what has that hurt?
What it hurts is a democracy. A democracy, you're not supposed to do things like that. You're supposed to have open societies where governments say, if they want to do that, do what the British did. Bring a bill through Congress. Say, we want to do this. We want to have all your records every single day sent to the NSA. See how much of a vote you'll get on that. They tried that in Britain, and they voted it down.
And what has it risked? Well, what has it thwarted?
Again, this is metadata. It's telephone numbers not attached to people. And the only access you can get to this metadata, if a U.S. citizen or U.S. legal resident is involved, is on an individual basis once you go through a federal court to get an individualized warrant, which is what the Fourth Amendment requires.
When you were in Congress, can I ask you, when you were in Congress, how often were you briefed on programs like this, especially PRISM programs like this?
Well, PRISM started after I left the Intelligence Committee, but I was briefed regularly on programs. Sure. Did I want more information? Yes. I wanted the memos that the Office of Legal Counsel, the OLC, and the Justice Department was providing. We couldn't get those. And yeah, I wanted more robust briefings, and I think Congress should always push for that. And I'm not saying this is perfect, and I think we agree that there ought to be a robust public debate. And oh, by the way, I think we need a new comprehensive set of legal boundaries around our post-9/11 policies. Well, we're in the second decade.
Well, that's the line where I want to end this. There's got to be a line somewhere between privacy and security. You agree on that? Where's the line?
Well, the line, the line I would put it is, if you're going to invade Americans' privacy, you bring a bill through Congress and you do it publicly that way. You don't do it secretly like they used to do in East Germany during the Cold War. Look, we're talking about having a debate now. How would we have had this debate? How would we be sitting here talking about this if it wasn't for Edward Snowden?
Well, I think, I applaud what Mark Udall has done and Ron Wyden. They made clear they disagreed with some aspects of this. They pursued their disagreement inside the system. And I think ultimately they would have caused the debate that we should be having. I'm sorry. I think Americans want our country protected. I don't think it's a choice between security and liberty. I don't think it's a zero-sum game. It's a positive-sum game. You get more of both or less of both. We created a Privacy and Civil Liberties Commission when we reorganized the intelligence community in 2004. You're rolling your eyes, but President Obama
because they just appointed the first person to it.
Well, the Senate finally confirmed the person,
we're not going to resolve this tonight, unfortunately. Jane Harman, James Bamford, thank you both very much. We'll talk about it some more.
My pleasure.